Good evening and welcome to Get the Facts. I am your host, William Neal, and thank you for joining us once again. Of course, this is a discussion organized by the Ministry of Health and Wellness and this station, Channel 5. And it's an interactive discussion, so you'll have an opportunity to submit your questions either by going to our Facebook page or by simply submitting it with hashtag #GetTheFacts. This discussion, as I said, is meant to be interactive, and of course we're going to be giving you another perspective in the whole COVID-19 panorama. That's our objective, to have a conversation, to spark discussion, and for you to get an opportunity to speak with experts that we have on the show. We'll start this week, as per usual, with a revision of the COVID numbers for the week of September 20 to September 27. Total tests done, 12,579. Total positive cases reported, 1,414. Total deaths, 13. Of course, we express our deepest condolences to all those families impacted by COVID-19. Now, let's go on the flip side and take a look at the numbers of Belizeans vaccinated. Total vaccinated for the week, September 20 to 27, 10,785. Total single vaccinated for the week, 8,867. Total fully vaccinated for the week, 19,652. Our cumulative data stands at total vaccinated, 189,043. Total fully vaccinated, 115,175. Total children vaccinated, children between the ages of 12 to 17, 22,350. Of course, those are our statistics, and usually what is of major concern is, of course, how many people are impacted and also how many deaths we've had for the week. We're getting ready to move into our first segment for tonight, and in our first segment, we're being joined by Dr. Jorge Polanco, Non-Communicable Disease Advisor at PAHO, and we're also being joined by Kathleen Cho, HECOPAB Technical Advisor. Good evening and welcome to the show for both of you.
Good evening and thanks for having us today.
Dr. Polanco.
Good evening. Nice being here.
Thank you for joining us. Let's start off just simply by talking about one of the words that sometimes is a tongue twister, is comorbidities. What exactly does that mean? And let's break it down. And has it expanded since we've had the start of the pandemic itself?
Okay, sure. Yeah, it's a very important term, especially within the pandemic that we are living right now. When we say comorbidities, we are referring to those diseases that persons would have, like, let us say in this case, speaking of COVID, that in addition to the disease COVID, they would have other diseases that most likely would make the COVID a little worse for them. So I'll give examples. For example, comorbidity in COVID is diabetes, for example, or hypertension, or tuberculosis. So those are just examples of diseases that exist that make the COVID infection, let me use the word worst, or that poses a higher risk. So co just means with, and a morbidity means diseases.
Now, when you're talking about comorbidities, is it because they impact a major organ in the body?
No, when we say comorbidity, we are referring to the other diseases that persons already have. So let me take a male 50 years old who is diabetic and who is also hypertensive. And now, unfortunately, he gets infected with COVID, with the COVID-19, with the SARS. So he gets the disease, he develops the COVID-19 disease, and his comorbidity are confirmed by two diseases, diabetes and hypertension. So that is what we mean, that apart from the COVID, he or she would have other diseases. And usually we mention it within the context that these other diseases that are also called underlying diseases make the situation for him or her on COVID worse. And by that I mean that they could lead to that person suffering moderate to severe COVID infection.
Okay. What I was trying to get at is if there has been an expansion of diseases that would fall onto that, or it has within that term since the start of the pandemic, or it remains pretty much the same.
Well, the diseases, the chronic diseases in Belize, and those chronic diseases that have represented comorbidity globally have really been those traditional diseases that we see, that we know of. The chronic diseases, and I'm referring to diabetes being a very frequent one, hypertension, obesity, cancer, other diseases that weaken the immune system of the individual. These are comorbidities. And these have been here, they were here before COVID, but the significance of these is that these diseases make the situation for the person infected with COVID worse. And by that I mean the risk for the persons to suffer severe disease of COVID is much higher because they have this underlying disease that we call comorbidity. And it could be obesity, for example, or it could be a cancer.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Polanco. And what I'll do is I'll speak with Kathleen as a technical advisor. What age group are we seeing in terms of being impacted most by the COVID-19 pandemic at this juncture? And also, what are some of the underlying conditions that tie to that?
Okay, so if we look at the daily report that we present on the Ministry of Health Facebook page, we see that those persons, the older persons 60 years and older, are more at risk for becoming severely ill with COVID-19. And one of the reasons is that most of these individuals also present underlying conditions. And as Dr. Polanco was mentioning, some of these diseases are chronic, and they comprise of diabetes, type 2 diabetes being very prevalent in our country. We have hypertension, we have cardiovascular diseases, and again, we find that these pre-existing conditions that individuals present and age are common risk factors for becoming severely ill with COVID-19. We start seeing even ages 40 and older becoming more severely ill or presenting more severe symptoms. And this is one of the reasons that we keep stressing the importance of a healthy lifestyle, of making better choices or actions or daily habits do influence, some of or probability or predisposition to presenting some of these diseases. We find that, with sedentary lifestyle, persons are not moving around as frequent. We find that with the pandemic, individuals are doing work from home and spending more time at their desks. And so this, with added stress, contribute to some of the choices that we make. And with the pandemic being very severe, we're seeing more increase in the COVID cases. It puts persons who are older and who have these underlying conditions more at a higher risk.
Now, you said that also there's a downward slide, and maybe that's something that Dr. Polanco can chime in as well. Because initially the concerns were for people above 65. But you're saying now as young as 40. And we've seen some very young people without any comorbidities die as well. Is it just the strain that worsens the severity of the disease itself?
We do find that it is a more infectious strain, and we're seeing that all age groups are being affected. Everyone is at risk for becoming infected with COVID-19, but because of the strain, as you rightly said, we are seeing some breakthrough cases, and we're seeing some persons presenting these symptoms at a very much younger age. We even have some pediatric cases, younger children being affected by COVID-19. So yes, we do see a combination of factors influencing the spread of the disease.
Care to add anything to that, Dr. Polanco?
Yeah, I think it is important to have in mind that this was a new disease, a new virus. So when it appeared in December of 2019 and in the early part of last year, for sure, underlying diseases made it more apparent in persons who had these diseases. And of course, the issue of age was there. The likelihood of you suffering chronic diseases and being over 60 or 60 or over is much higher. But let me say parallel to this, that it was also known at the beginning that about 80% of the cases would, of the persons who would get infected would suffer mild signs and symptoms. Or perhaps they would not have much signs and symptoms, they would be asymptomatic. A smaller percentage, around 15%, would suffer the disease in a moderate manner, and only about 5% would suffer the disease in a very severe manner that they would warrant to be in a hospital. They were hospitalized and would need intensive care. So then what this is telling us is that the greater proportion were asymptomatic. So then there could have been much more persons of a younger age infected, but because they would not have comorbidities, because they would not have other underlying disease that would enhance the COVID infection, perhaps it was never detected. Of course, we had the Delta variant that as soon as it began appearing, it reflected in an increasing number of younger persons. So we have the issue of the variant, and we also have the issue of the age group and the presence or not of underlying diseases. So I think it's a combination of those factors and perhaps some other things that yet have not been discovered, because as the months are coming by, many new things are being discovered of the behavior of this virus.
And the same tail end of the question that I spoke to Kathleen about, in terms of, is there a downward slide in the number, in the age factor itself?
You mean a decrease in the proportion of younger persons?
Yeah.
From what I have seen, we are seeing more persons at a younger age being infected.
But
so I don't know if it's a downward trend, because if we are having
when I'm saying downward slide, sorry, let me qualify that. I mean that you're seeing people who are younger having a terminal kind of, or fatal kind of severity when it comes to, as opposed to when we first started, where the concern was primarily around 65.
Yeah. Okay, I get you. Yeah, of course, there's an increasing number of younger persons, but the possibility or the risk of these persons being hospitalized is lower than those in the older ages because of the lack of underlying diseases. Have in mind, as Ms. Joss said and I said earlier, the presence of, for example, of diabetes or the presence of obesity increases the risk for suffering the severe form of COVID-19. So if a young person does not have that, the likelihood of suffering the disease in a severe manner is much less. So then the likelihood of him or her reaching to a healthcare facility in a either moderate or severe condition is much lower. That does not mean to say then that they will not be infected. Right now, I believe the entire population is sensitive to the fact that if they suspect exposure to somebody who is COVID, or if they would have some minor respiratory sign and symptom, they would think on getting tested, which is good because that automatically would put them in a position as to what to do and what not to do should in case they turn to be positive.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Polanco and Kathleen. We're going to go ahead and take our first break. And when we come back, we'll focus more squarely on Wellness Week, what it means and how it is being celebrated or highlighted in tandem with COVID wellness, COVID-19 wellness at this juncture. Don't go anywhere. We're going to go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, we'll focus squarely on that Forget the Fat.
This can be you. Get vaccinated. The life you save can be yours. This is a message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
At Belize Diagnostic Center, we offer FDA-approved PCR testing for COVID-19. Get your results as quickly as 1 hour. Don't risk getting exposed to COVID-19 by going elsewhere. We take appointments, or we can come to your home or office using our concierge service with no additional fees. We have 10 locations countrywide. Call or WhatsApp us at 613-TEST. That is 613-8378 to schedule your test today.
With the rise in COVID cases and youths being infected, it is time to be safe and stay safe with SAFE, Sanitization and Fumigation of Environments. Let our professionally trained and certified team be your solution to a clean, healthier, and safe environment for your home or business. For more information, call or WhatsApp 613-0222 or visit us at 2.5 miles Philip Golson Highway beside Friendship Restaurant. Choose the one you can trust. Choose safe.
Save, save, save. The credit union way.
Member owners are encouraged to save regularly, borrow wisely, and repay promptly.
No use keeping the money in your pocket. Soon as you turn wrong, you know you ain't got it. So as money goes from hand to hand, give your cash to the umbrella man. I telling you, save, save, save. The credit union way. Save, save, save. It will make you rich someday.
Looking good, Mom. Hey guys, I'm off to run some errands. Please tidy up this place. did you guys do it?
We got cleaners.
Cleaners?
You know it, Dad.
Cleaner. It works.
As Belize continues to shield its people from the worst ravages of this pandemic, we must continue to keep our country safe by ensuring reliable supply chains for critical components for the fight ahead. Belize's oxygen supply is safe with 300% more oxygen supply in country than is necessary. However, Fabregas continues to make our oxygen supply chain even more robust and responsive to a potential worst-case scenario. Through supply arrangements established and secured by Fabregas, our country can receive critical life-saving oxygen from 5 regional neighbors in Mexico and Central America through marine and/or land transportation. So, in addition, Fabregas has secured additional reliable sources of life-saving oxygen using a diversity of transportation modes and countries of origin. Fabregas Belize Limited. We got your back.
And welcome back. We're moving into our second segment, talking about core morbidities and how they impact the risks for anyone who contracts COVID-19. But we're going to be talking a little bit about Wellness Week, and joining us for this conversation, in addition to Kathleen, we have Robin Daly, who's a nutritionist. Good night and welcome to the show.
Good night. Thank you for having me.
Now, Kathleen, let's talk a little bit about the theme and why that is so important at a time like this.
Okay, so this year Wellness Week is being celebrated from September 27th to October 1st. And this is an annual event that is celebrated in partnership with CARFA, with PAHO, and with the SICA region. So it serves as an important reminder for organizations, both from the public sector and the private sector, to stress the importance of investing in the individual health. And this is particularly for employees or frontline workers. We are in the face of a pandemic, a wave of a pandemic, and we do see understandable fear, frustration, and stress. And so this is an opportunity for organizations to foster a positive work environment and to promote healthy behaviors.
Now, you know, one of the things that everyone's talking about at this point is just simply the fatigue factor, that we're inundated by information, and some people say it's an overload. So how do you balance that when you have a week that is actually focusing as well? And I'll talk to you first, and then I want to switch to how we can actually look at nutrition as one of the key factors as well in managing our risks.
So one of the things that we stress during this week is safeguarding your mental health. And being overloaded by information does contribute to stress, to anxiety. And it's important for us to take breaks, listen to only reliable sources of information. You know, we have the regular TV shows, we have the radio stations, we have those media houses that will present the data in a very reliable and consistent manner. So we want to stick to those sources of information and take breaks, from social media. It becomes very stressful at times to see all the negative feedback, and we need to again come back and stay focused in that positive light, just to reboot and re-energize so that we can continue our everyday activities.
Very important point there. And I want to switch that to talking a little bit about nutrition. Because you do have some people who insist, for example, that, oh, I'm not worried about it, COVID, because, I'm healthy and I eat healthy. Are there foods, Robin, that, are capable of boosting your immune system? And how is that a key part of managing your risk for COVID-19?
Okay, you brought up 2 points, looking at what foods boost your immune system and how one can use food to better prepare or better reduce risk for COVID. Looking at the immune system, yes, there are certain foods and there are certain dietary habits that persons should engage in to reduce risk and also to boost your immune system. As you all know, normally you get sick, you definitely grab your vitamin C, so that's a plus. You want to make sure that you do have not only vitamin C, but fresh fruits and vegetables is a plus. You want to keep your plate with more natural foods and avoid processed foods, avoid foods that are high in sugar, fat, and salt. Sugar in particularly weakens the immune system. Our bodies have sometimes you have cravings. Everybody have times they go through sugar cravings or salt cravings. But those are 2 foods that weaken the immune system and actually puts your body, it weakens the body overall. So it puts you at risk for not having your body in the best state and can make you more vulnerable to getting COVID. Another point is also, I mentioned fatty foods. So, and then that's another craving that sometimes we all have. So looking at fatty foods, looking at sugary foods, those foods in particular weaken the immune system. Using Wellness Week as a platform for us to highlight, we've been doing this for years and we always talk about eating healthy, but right now during this pandemic, it's very important for people to strengthen their immune system and try to eat healthy because we're all at risk for getting COVID. So once you're better prepared and your body is in a better state, you can cope better, you can cope easier. So, and that brings me up to my other point that I want to make, which is also when you want to boost your immune system, like I said, more natural. So having natural fruits, having a lot of water, hydration is very important during this time. When you get sick, one of the most important things is to hydrate your body. You have to make sure you're consuming a lot of water and not sugary drinks like I mentioned. So sometimes people grab things like Gatorade or whatever it may be, sweetened drinks, and that doesn't help you to hydrate your body and help you to be able to fight illness better. So that's very important. And also, I'll use this opportunity as well to encourage persons to consume less alcoholic drinks. That weakens and that also dehydrates the body. And coffee, well, caffeine, which coffee has a very high content of caffeine, that also weakens the body and can weaken the immune system. So I'm highlighting these because most people have addictions to caffeine, to alcoholic drinks, to coffee, things like that. And I'm not saying take it out of your diet completely, but just keep in mind that it's not very helpful for you when we're looking at having a healthy diet, looking at boosting your immune system, looking at making sure your body is in a good position to be able to fight illness. When you're healthy, you are able to fight illness very quickly. When your body is weak and your immune system is weak, it will have a deeper effect. It will have a worsening effect on overall how you fight off illness.
Now, you talked about reducing, some key things: salt, sugar, and fats. And when you say go natural, I remember at one point when we were talking about nutrition, we talk about the color variety that you place on your plate. How important is that, from the greens to maybe beet, having a diverse, or eating with your eyes, looking at tomatoes, etc., everything, purple or sweet onions or whatever, how important is it that you have that kind of a diversity in terms of your intake?
It is important. It's always good to have color on your plate because different colors in foods indicate different nutrients. But one bigger point to keep in mind is just to have more natural foods. So have foods that require less processing, less cooking. So you want to have your vegetables raw as much as possible. You want to have your fruits fresh without added sugar or salt or anything like that as much as possible. You want to have foods that are made from plant sources more often. So when we're looking at having that, the color is important, but even if you can't afford to have different colors on your plate, you want to stick in your head that you need to have more natural, have more water, and have basic foods. And that's something that we promote, especially during this time, during people having many financial difficulties. Just try as much as possible to rely less on processed food, fried foods, and try to eat as much natural as possible. So whatever comes from plants that are natural that you could add to your food, do it. If you can only have orange and banana, that's the fruits that you can afford, go ahead and do that. If you can have the variety, different colors, of course, that always helps. All of those things can boost your immune system, but you want to keep in mind that natural is best, and try to have foods that require less processing and less additional preservatives that's in it. So natural is always the way to go.
All right. Now, shifting gears, Kathleen, you were talking earlier about organizations that have frontline workers, for example. How can organizations work with their employees, for example, to ensure that they protect the employees' well-being and also their mental state and reduce anxiety, etc.? What kind of programs would you encourage to be implemented by businesses and organizations?
Okay, so you know, wellness is a choice, and it extends from just being free from illness. So it's maintaining your body physically well. Socially, you're interacting with individuals. You're being spiritually engaged. And so it includes all these different dimensions of health. And so organizations can help to maintain or promote the well-being of their employees by creating these programs that will focus on their healthy nutrition. They can give out, you know, simple things as giving out fruits as snacks instead of sweets, offering, you know, smoothie days, affordable options, and they can even engage in some physical activities, you know, individual challenges at the workplace. They can engage in how many miles they cover for the week, you know, by brisk walking or running. And we saw all these activities before COVID-19, where these organizations planned, you know, sports day activities, but now with the pandemic, we still have to maintain our wellness, and boosting or having these activities can create that positive work environment, and in turn our employees will have an increased productivity. There will be less absenteeism in the workplace. And apart from that, you can have these health committees. Like I said, it has to be an individual choice. We have to take an individual responsibility for our own health. And we see the importance of this, especially because a healthy lifestyle will mean that our bodily functions will perform much better. You will have, for example, you know, physical activity will help your body and your mind to work much better. You can help to manage your weight with increased physical activity. You can boost your immune system with the proper foods that you eat. And you can also remain alert. The importance of sleep. We find that stress does contribute to heart disease and to sleep deprivation. And then that in turn causes persons to, you know, lead or engage in unhealthy you know, choices. You know, when you're stressed out, you tend to eat more unhealthy foods. So organizations have to be conscious of all these factors. You know, the building where we work, the type of work that we do will influence the foods that we buy. We might not have time to cook our own food, so the first thing that comes to mind is fast food, and we already heard how much fatty foods can contribute to obesity and being overweight. So we have all these activities that the organizations can promote.
Now, based on your response, and something that has been ticking in the back of my mind's eye has been, you're talking about some of the ways that you can reduce anxiety and stress and everything else. But I want to go back to Robin and talk a little bit about, for some people, food consumption then becomes a way of managing their anxiety. You know, whether it will be sweets, alcohol consumption, or something else. So how do you, are there foods that you can actually consume that will help you to control those cravings at that 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the afternoon when you want something because you feel like, some people will say there was a dip in my sugar levels or something of that sort, so I need something to pick me up, or coffee or something else. How do you, is there a way to manage those foods by using food itself?
You know, when you have cravings and when you're having these spikes, it's most of the times a form of when you're going through some mental distress. Most of the times, that's one of the main reasons. So like Kathleen brought up some ideas that companies can do and organizations can do, but it's an entire package. Because when you're stressed, when you're feeling frustrated, yes, food is a form of comfort. But if you have things in place to prevent this, so being physically active, having ways to manage your stress, you'll find yourself relying less on these cheating foods or foods for comfort. So, because think about it, if you're stressed out, you will not go and sit down and grab a salad. The first thing you're thinking about is maybe a chocolate, a piece of cake, whatever it may be. But if you're not as stressed, you will more feel like, okay, I have a routine to manage stress. I try to do my walking every day, or the workplaces can also have programs that help to enhance better mental health. And I think that's one of the areas that is lacking that would help to manage how people eat. Because when you're not stressed, you would more than likely eat better. The people who are stressed out tend to eat more unhealthy most of the times because you're stressed. Or maybe you're frustrated at work, or you're having different types of challenges. So how we manage that affects a lot of how you eat. Because you can have, I'm not saying don't ever have the foods that you like, but it's just how often you have it, and when you have it, and how much of it you have. And that's where the balance gets out of sync, because we tend to overly consume unhealthy foods. And we don't want to exercise, we don't want to do anything. Many times you're stressed out, you will say, well, let me get a drink, let me get a piece of cake. You won't say, let me go run. Most people won't say that, or let me go for a walk. But we want people to start incorporating these healthy habits into workplaces, into their daily lives as much as possible to prevent illness, and also especially during this pandemic. Because it's a package.
And the earlier curfew too, which puts
yes.
more people on this.
Exactly. So it's a package that we need to look at how we can incorporate in your daily lives at home and also within the workplace. Because it has a lot to do with how we're managing our time, what we rely on, and what choices we make. So we have to have a plan for wellness. And you have to look at it for your personal goals, and also you have to look at it from a company or an organizational perspective. What are you doing for your staff? How can we manage it? Maybe on Fridays for half an hour, everybody does a stress relief session. You could have counseling sessions, you could have breathing exercise sessions, getting up, you're sitting at your desk for 7 hours for the day sometimes, just doing computer, doing Zoom meetings. How often do you get up and stretch? Things like that have to be incorporated within the workplace and also within our personal lives, so we can have better compliance with healthier options. We can also have better ways of dealing with this entire pandemic and being able to have a better approach on our health for our lives.
All right. Before we go into our third segment, in which we'll have the experts here to answer your questions, we do want to remind you that you can submit your question through our Facebook Live link, or just by sending us a message, #GetTheFacts. But before I go there, what would be, for both of you, from a nutritional and from a health perspective, a broader health perspective, what would be the one takeaway that either of you would have or discuss with someone after a wellness week kind of thing, either from an organizational point of view or an individual point of view?
Okay, so it's something that has to be a choice, as I mentioned before. In order for us to be able to help others who are stressed out, who need maybe better coping mechanisms, we have to be in a better state ourselves. We have to be healthy, we have to be equipped, and so we can do so by being physically active, eating well, and just maintaining a positive outlook by, taking needed breaks, engaging in some breathing exercises, in some yoga sessions. All of that will contribute to a better, state of mind, and that in turn can help us to reach out to other people who need that assistance. Building healthier communities requires a collective effort. And so it has to start with the individual taking that responsibility for his or her own health.
All right. Thank you, Kathleen. And Robin, before we go to
break?
My
takeaway message would be something very personal for each person to do. I would say we've talked a lot about unhealthy habits today. So my challenge and my message would be to write down 2 or 3 things that you're doing that's not healthy for your lifestyle. So it may be like maybe you have 3-4 soft drinks for the week, maybe you drink 6-7 drinks, alcoholic drinks for the week. Whatever 3 or 4 unhealthy habits you're doing, write those down and also put a corrective action that you'll start doing immediately. So if you normally have 3 cups of coffee, we already spoke about coffee dehydrating the body. Okay, maybe one of your personal goals will be to have 1 cup for the day instead of 3 cups. So I would challenge and I would encourage each person to look at at least 3 unhealthy habits that you're doing. Maybe you're not doing any exercise. You'll start walking twice a week. And you could start taking small steps, because that's how you be able to practice it longer. Take little baby steps, but try to make changes today with what you're going to do. Maybe you're going to start making sure you take a big thermos to work, so you can fill that, and before you leave for work, that's finished. And that would be your way of taking in more water. So we spoke about types of foods, we spoke about physical activity, we spoke about mental health, and also that's an important point. So whatever it is that you know that you need support with, that you know that's not healthy for you, write them down and ask yourself, what can you do to correct this, to improve it? So if you find yourself getting stressed, and when you're stressed you do this bad habit, okay, how are you going to manage your stress? Well, I'm going to listen to some soothing music before I get home, when I get home from work, or maybe in the morning, whatever it is that you think will be able to help you based on our recommendations that we've given. And it goes for employers as well, and personal lifestyle changes that each person can do. So that would be my message, to just start making small steps and see what you're doing and how you can improve.
And one of the beautiful things what both of you said was actually the fact that get your families involved. These don't have to be solitary. You're in your bubble with your family. So if you're going for a walk, take a family member or encourage that kind of thing, So it's important for you to include your family, because then you get the additional support that you may need to actually make it a long-term change. We're going to go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, we'll be answering the questions that you have submitted. Don't go anywhere. Get the Facts continues after these messages.
no make no sense at all. No kind of sense. That Belize video when I have that sign up there in China for.
That not in your Chinese at all, that in Spanish.
You understand what it said then?
Yeah. It said wear your face mask properly, cover your nose and your mouth.
Will help prevent the spread of COVID to others. Together we could make Belize safe.
Wear your mask properly over your mouth and nose to protect yourself and others. Together we can keep Belize COVID-19 safe.
Looking good, Mom. Hey guys, I'm off to run some errands. Please tidy up this place. No! Wow! How did you guys do it?
We got cleaners.
Cleaners?
You know it, Dad.
Cleaner. It works.
Hello Belize. You may not be aware of the new travel requirements set in place by the Center of Disease Control and Prevention. Passengers traveling to the U.S. must present a negative COVID test or a documentation of having recovered from COVID-19 to travel to the U.S. In light of this, Maya, in partnership with Caring Hands Clinic, have established testing centers in all their municipal airports. Caring Hands Antigen Test Center is operational in San Pedro, Belize City, Dangriga, Placencia, and Hopkins. These testing facilities are staffed by licensed healthcare professionals, including doctors, registered nurses, and nurse practitioners. Testing is done using Abbott Rapid Test devices that are FDA approved and made in the USA. The service is safe, fast, affordable, and the close proximity of the centers makes them convenient. Walk-ins are welcomed, but appointments are encouraged. If you would like to make an appointment, please feel free to do so at Make your appointment, get tested, and in 15 minutes, you can get back to your vacation.
the convenient and flavorful way to give your immune system a daily boost of vitamin C. Just pop the cap, drop it in water, let it fizz, and enjoy.
Welcome back to Get the Facts, and we're moving into our interactive segment for tonight. And we will be fielding questions from you, our viewers, and we have all three experts on point and ready to answer the questions. So we have Robin Daly as our nutritionist. We have Kathleen Cho as our technical advisor from HECOPAB. And of course, we have Dr. Jorge Polanco as well via Zoom. So let's jump into our first questions, and I encourage the panelists, if you feel as if though you have something to add to this particular question, please feel free to do so. Our first question is, if older persons with serious underlying conditions cannot get vaccinated, how can they protect themselves from contracting COVID-19? Doc, you want to take that one?
Yeah, but there would have to be very specific reasons for them to have the vaccine contraindicated, because generally speaking, even with comorbidities, you can get the vaccine even for diseases where the immune system is directly compromised, such as, for example, HIV. The vaccine is safe. So the vaccine has been recommended. It started off here in Belize for adults, but now it has extended to children at a younger age. But once there would not be any specific reason that the vaccine should not be given, I would say, generally speaking, everybody can get it. Especially, well, not especially, everybody should get the vaccine as we speak right now.
Now, Doc, I think you raised a good point, and I'd like you to elaborate just a second there. Because some people in ordinary, everyday conversation, when you talk to them, they say, oh, I'm afraid to get it because I have diabetes, or I have this, or I have that. Do you make that? How do you encourage someone to actually make that decision as opposed to guess that that's the right decision for them?
Yeah, it's a matter of informing them. It's a matter of letting them understand that the vaccine, what the vaccine will do at the level of your body inside in the circulation. What it will do is it will promote the creation of antibodies. Antibodies are cells that would be able to detect when the real virus gets in. Let us say the COVID-19 virus. So it has its own way of working, and it really does not interfere with chronic diseases such as diabetes or hypertension or cancer. It does not. To the contrary, it makes it is of much benefit, because that person who has those diseases will have a lower risk of suffering COVID-19 in a severe manner. So really, contraindications are very minimal. I'm not really aware of anyone, with the exception of perhaps some allergy to something that some ingredient that the vaccine would have. But generally speaking, it's well tolerated. Let me take the opportunity to say that Belize is participating in this surveillance of the reporting of adverse effects. Belize has been, all the world is contributing to this information on a weekly basis, and that is how globally the information on adverse effects are being collected. And here in Belize, at least I'm not aware of any specific report that could be directly and very clearly associated to the vaccine. So on the contrary, people, coming back to your question, people with those diseases should be vaccinated. They are the ones who are more vulnerable, as Robin mentioned earlier.
All right, thank you, Doc. This question, are there any natural remedies that can aid in treating COVID-19?
I will say that I'm going back to my main point again, using plant-based foods and natural foods are a plus. People have used the fever grass, the ginger, what else have they used?
Honey and lime.
The honey, lime, and there's another plant, one that I forgot, but yes, thank you, the vervine. And those have worked very well for people who has had COVID. I won't say use it and buy it, but they're all plant-based if you notice. They're all based on natural forms of food, natural forms of treatment that people can use. So these things are a plus, and I would encourage anybody to get back into that natural base, get back into teas, natural teas. If you can even get your ginger, boil it, do natural based remedies such as that, and that's always a plus. It does help to strengthen the body, and it does have many properties, antibacterial, antifungal properties that can help to promote healing very quickly, reduce inflammation. It helps the body to cope. So I will suggest and encourage people to always use natural remedies such as those, and keep those in your daily diet, not because you're preventing yourself from getting COVID, but just it's a better way to consume your foods, natural form.
And earlier I had one question. I'll come to you right now, Kathleen. Sorry. I also had a question related to that, because people who have tested positive, for example, foods that they consume, what foods are best in that regard, in terms of if you're not having a severe case of it, what would you encourage people to consume in order to help promote healing?
Those same foods that I mentioned, having, like I said, the same, you could use the vervine, the ginger, the honey, and I know there are medicines and there are different tonics that people have made, homemade tonics, which have those ingredients in it that has been very helpful for people when they've had COVID, when they've contracted COVID. So the turmeric, the honey, the ginger, the lime, the vervine, the fever grass, different things like that have been very helpful. One point to make mention is if you do have COVID, try not to consume cold beverages. Warm beverages are better, so room temperature water, warm liquids. You don't want to have things that are icy. So that's another plus that helps. And go back to some of the same foods that I mentioned. So you avoid fried foods. You try to have your most fruits, your vegetables, your things that are very much natural and doesn't have much processing in it. So you could eat your regular types foods, things that we have a lot of, things that are traditional, beans, but you want to make sure rice, but you want to make sure you're consuming things in a healthy way and you're using natural as much as possible.
All right. Our next question: are people who are obese one of the most vulnerable groups to contract COVID-19?
May I add?
Sure. Sorry.
Yes. So persons who are overweight and obese, we see that we have about 65% of our population who are either obese or overweight. And one of the risk factors that contribute to obesity and being overweight is physical inactivity and not eating well. So those are persons who do have that increase, who are more at risk for becoming infected. That is right. And this is why it's very important to, monitor your blood sugar level, to monitor your weight, and to try to, make a better choice in terms of what you eat. Because we do find that hypertension and obesity, those are silent killers. So we have to be screening and finding out more about our numbers to be able to know where we are on that continuum. So yes, that does make us more vulnerable to becoming infected to COVID-19 and to other diseases that are out there as well.
I want to add also that when persons are obese, remember that you are very much at risk health-wise. You're very at risk for getting many diseases. Your heart has to work harder to pump blood. You're more at risk for high blood pressure. You're at risk for having elevated blood sugar. Your body is not in the best state when you have a lot of fat, a lot of when you're, especially if you're morbidly obese, you're really putting a strain on your body. So yes, you become very much vulnerable to being able to pick up other diseases and being at risk also for COVID and for the other diseases that have been mentioned, which is the heart disease and hypertension and diabetes. So it puts you at risk for many conditions.
All right. Let's go to our next question. Go ahead, Dr. Polanco.
Yeah. Since we're speaking of obesity, just let me put in a grain of sand there. The review of the data over the last few months has revealed that persons with obesity, they triple the risk of being hospitalized due to COVID-19. Triple the risk. In other words, it's clearly shown that it's a risk factor for getting COVID in a severe manner. Apart from that, it has been linked to impaired immune function, so the capacity of the body to defend itself against infection is lessened due to being obese. And it directly decreases the capacity of the lungs. So if here we have somebody with COVID, for the capacity for lung expansion and lung ventilation. So somebody with COVID who already has the respiratory system compromised and is obese, it's just something very strong against his recovery, or against that contributes to the severity of disease. And it's logical, it's a physical effect. The obesity around the muscles around the chest have a impact directly in the expansion of the thoracic area of the thorax.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Polanco. The next question to our panel is describe severe COVID.
Okay, we do have persons who display mild symptoms. We have individuals who will, come with a cough or come with a fever, mild fever that may last for a couple of days, 2-3 days. And we also have individuals who then might start experiencing breathing difficulties. And once we get to that stage, then we have to monitor more closely those individuals. And if they do require seeking medical care, then we do advise for persons to do seek medical care. It's very important to see what is mild and what is then termed severe. And this is one of the things that we talk about when we're talking about home care, and seeing what these symptoms are. If persons know that these are the symptoms that may last for a couple of days, then it's fine to treat those things in the confines of your homes. But once it starts to getting to a point where you're really having difficulty breathing, you have pain in your chest, then that's time when you start to seek medical advice.
All right, let's move on to the next question. How can I assist someone who constantly has panic attacks while COVID positive? Anybody?
Has panic attacks, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Robin who mentioned that the COVID pandemic brings fear, has brought fear, not only at the individual level, but at the community level. So there is a degree of fear around every COVID case, and it is very important for the persons around him or her, the healthcare providers or his friends or his family, to be able to provide that emotional support that with proper treatment, with timely treatment, it should be over, that with the collaboration of everybody in that household in taking preventive measures to contain the spread, it should be overcome. But of course, there will be fear, especially if it's an adult losing his job or dying, and if he's a breadwinner, if it's a mother, for example, having young children, leaving a young family. So it is logical to have that fear, but at the same time, it's the responsibility of everybody to provide that emotional support, to provide that counseling, to be able to show a horizon where you can get out of it. And this brings us back takes us back to one of the topics this week, the issue of wellness at the workplace. It's not only the responsibility of the immediate household members, but colleagues, workers should have that duty to provide that counseling support, that emotional support, saying, don't be afraid, we will be with you, you will overcome it, we'll ensure that your children are okay, we'll ensure that your husband or your wife are okay. So there are different ways to assist those persons in overcoming that fear, in coping. In other words, it's a matter of assisting that person to cope. The other side of the coin, it would be having those panic attacks. And once that happens, of course, the need for counseling must continue or is there, and the counseling should continue. If it is recognized that the persons immediately around cannot do it, then they can ask for help. The health services will know exactly how to go about getting that help, those counseling services, which are critical.
Thank you very much, Doc. And we're going to go ahead and take our final break. And when we come back, we'll have our final words from our panelists. So don't go anywhere. COVID Get the Facts show, or COVID Get the Facts show, continues and wraps after these messages.
COVID cases and youths being infected, it is time to be safe and stay safe with SAFE, Sanitization and Fumigation of Environments. Let our professionally trained and certified team be your solution to a clean, healthier, and safe environment for your home or business. For more information, call or WhatsApp 613-0222 or visit us at 2.5 miles Philip Golson Highway beside Friendship Restaurant. Choose the one you can trust. Choose safe.
At Belmopan Medical Center, your health matters. Come see one of our many specialists such as pediatrician, dermatologist, urologist, nephrologist, or orthopedic surgeon. Our allied services include laboratory, pharmacy, nutritionist, psychologist, hospitalization, and operating theater. We provide on-call ultrasound services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week using our new venous and arterial Doppler. Get your Abbott ID Now PCR test for only $275 or get a rapid antigen test for only $100. Both tests give results in 30 minutes. Belmopan Medical Center, located on Garbutt Creek Street in Belmopan. Give us a call at 822-3179 because your health matters.
At Belize Diagnostic Center, we offer FDA-approved PCR testing for COVID-19. Get your results as quickly as 1 hour. Don't risk getting exposed to COVID-19 by going elsewhere. We take appointments, or we can come to your home or office using our concierge service with no additional fees. We have 10 locations countrywide. Call or WhatsApp us at 613-TEST. That is 613-8378 to schedule your test today.
And welcome back to Get the Facts. This is our final segment for tonight. And so I'd like to invite our guests to give their final words as we get ready to end our show for tonight. Let's start first with Dr. Polanco, since he's via Zoom. Doc?
Yes, Steve. Thanks. Indeed, let me stick to the topic of the week, which is wellness. And looking at COVID, there is much more to say and much more to do in regards to promoting wellness, in regards to creating enabling environments that would strengthen those protective factors that would keep us healthy. I must say, when we speak of wellness, we are speaking of keeping healthy, making the population remain healthy. And I think this is crucial. Of course, if we would have specific comorbidities, going back to your original term, Keith, all that it means is that we need to be cognizant of those risks and take measures to comply with the medications for those chronic diseases, to keep the doctor's appointments, to eat the healthy food that will contribute to manage those diseases. And in that way, looking at the NCDs, looking at those risk factors, we would be preventing and control COVID, because we would be putting in place, we would be strengthening, protecting ourselves against the severe form of the virus. I'm not saying we would not get the virus, but we would not get it in that severe form. So then my final word would be, those of you out there who have not been vaccinated, just look at the statistics worldwide and look at the statistics here in Belize. The majority of persons who end up at the ICU of Carl Huchner are persons who have not been vaccinated. So the message is clear. So then what we should do within the context of wellness, go for our vaccines and keep safe.
Thank you very much, Dr. Polanco. Ladies, who will go first?
Okay, so stressing more along the same line as Dr. Polanco, we want to remind the general public to be COVID-19 safe, especially during this time. Wear your mask properly, don't let your guards down, avoid big crowds, social gatherings. Let's come out and encourage others to come get vaccinated, including our breastfeeding mothers or pregnant women out there. And that, let us take the opportunity to make use of this entire package, eating well, going for walks, and staying positive and being in that space that allows you to focus on what is really important, and that is, being in that supportive environment for you and for your colleagues, because we really do need each other around this time. So again, let us keep those protocols in mind, especially in our work settings. We are each other's keeper at this time. So we do that every day, and let's keep that conversation going.
All right, thank you very much, Kathleen. And now over to you, Robin.
In conclusion, I would just encourage everyone, based on what both Kathleen and Dr. Polanco have said, my contribution in closing remarks would be to put your personal self-care plan into action. Find your positive people in your circle. Everybody has stresses and anxieties about dealing with this pandemic, so find your positive reinforcement, be it a seaside, good music, church, praying. That helps to keep your mind focused. Of course, eating healthy. Try as much as possible to cut out foods that are not good for you, that are processed foods, unhealthy foods, foods high in fat, sugar, and salt. Try to eat more natural foods, reduce alcoholic drinks. Try not to do any smoking, anything that's unhealthy for your health. So put your self-care plan into action, and with that, and having your circle positive and protocols in place, and of course, get vaccinated. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Robin. And with that, we've come to the end of our show for tonight, and also the end of this season for Get the Facts. Of course, we'll keep you informed as to when we'll be restarting our show. Thank you very much for being a part of it. We want to encourage you to continue to wear your mask, watch your physical distance, and wash your hands. Of course, this has been a collaboration between the Ministry of Health and Wellness and this station, Channel 5. I also want to remind you that we have the schedule for the San Antonio catchment in Toledo. So this is where you can go out, the days that the vaccination are available and exactly where they are available. So we have Halacte, San Vicente, and I don't know what SAP. Okay, San Antonio Polyclinic. Okay, so before you relax, get vaxxed. Of course, we want to continue to encourage you to look for reputable sites to get the information, the correct information, and continue to have the conversation. Seek a medical professional to help you and guide you through any questions that you may have. It's important that we have a very robust conversation and continue to do so. Until we restart with Get the Facts, I've been your host, William Neal. Thank you very much for your support. Have a good night, everyone, and we'll see you hopefully soon.